female doctor accidentally killed the only grandson of a wealthy family. To avoid retaliation from the family, she secretly swapped the dead baby with another living one. This scene was witnessed by a nurse. To keep the nurse quiet, the doctor offered to send the nurse's daughter, who had leukemia, abroad for treatment and promised the nurse's family a lifetime of wealth and luxury. For her daughter's sake, the nurse chose to help the doctor cover up the crime. What's infuriating is that the living baby's mother, Mi-yeon, was actually the nurse's cousin. When Mi-yeon learned that her child had suddenly died, she felt like her world had collapsed. She desperately wanted to see her child, but to prevent her from discovering the truth, the doctor called the nurse to forcibly drag her away. Eventually Mi-yeon was able to hold the child, but because the baby had been dead for some time, she didn't recognize it wasn't her own. Mi-yeon carried the child to the morgue in grief and happened to pass by the wealthy heiress. As a mother herself, she felt sorry for Mi-yeon's loss, not knowing that the dead infant was actually her own son. After taking the child to the morgue, Mi-yeon's heart ached as she looked at the death certificate. Just then, she suddenly remembered that yesterday on her way to see the child, she had bumped into Dr. Seo Eun-ha, who reeked of alcohol and was rushing nervously to the neonatal ICU. Mi-yeon instantly suspected the child's death wasn't a simple accident but caused by the doctor's negligence. She immediately went to her cousin, Nurse Seol, asking when the child's condition had worsened and where the doctor had been last night. Fearing last night's events would be exposed, Nurse Seol stammered lies, saying the child's condition worsened at 10 p.m. and the doctor had been on duty at the hospital the whole time. Nurse Seol's panicked demeanor made Mi-yeon even more suspicious, and she turned to find the doctor for answers. Seeing this, Nurse Seol quickly tipped off the doctor. The doctor was terrified when she heard she had been the on-duty doctor in the neonatal ward last night, but she had gone to a hotel to meet her boyfriend and gotten completely drunk. Right when the wealthy family's newborn had a medical emergency, the nurses tried desperately to contact the doctor but couldn't reach her. It wasn't until after her date that the doctor saw the nurse's messages. She rushed back to the hospital, but the child had missed the golden window for rescue and died. Now the child's mother was coming to hold her accountable, and the doctor was panicking. But thinking it over, she realized Mi-yeon was just a powerless poor woman who couldn't do anything to her, so she quickly calmed down. Soon Mi-yeon stormed into the office, demanding to know when the child's condition had started to worsen. The doctor pretended to be calm and said it began at 6 a.m. This clearly contradicted the nurse's statement. Mi-yeon continued to question whether she had gone out drinking last night. The doctor's heart skipped a beat, but she immediately denied it and turned it around, accusing Mi-yeon of trying to use the child's death to extort compensation from the hospital. The doctor's deceitful attitude completely enraged Mi-yeon. To uncover the true cause of her child's death, Mi-yeon decided to have an autopsy performed. The doctor was terrified when she heard this. An autopsy would definitely expose the truth. She rushed to stop Mi-yeon but saw her talking to a man who happened to have a long-time crush on the doctor. So after they separated, the doctor quickly called the man, Hong In-cheol, to her office and tearfully begged him to persuade Mi-yeon not to do the autopsy. Of course, she didn't tell him the whole truth, only saying that her work mistake had led to the child's death. Hong In-cheol agreed without hesitation. He then found Mi-yeon and urged her to let the child rest in peace rather than subjecting the child to further harm. Meanwhile, Mi-yeon's husband was also being treated at this hospital after a car accident. Hong In-cheol used this to persuade Mi-yeon not to conflict with the hospital, saying it would affect her husband's treatment. For her bedridden husband's sake, she finally gave up the idea of an autopsy. After Hong In-cheol perfectly completed his mission, he went happily to the Dr. Eun-ha to claim credit, but accidentally overheard a conversation between Eun-ha and her father. Hong In-cheol was shocked to learn the truth. Then Eun-ha wanted to invite Hong In-cheol to talk with her father, but Hong In-cheol directly brought up the baby swap. Eun-ha thought Hong In-cheol would help her unconditionally as before, but he directly proposed that she marry him. To get Hong In-cheol to help hide her crime, Eun-ha could only tearfully agree. Meanwhile, Mi-yeon hadn't recovered from the grief of losing her child when her husband also suddenly passed away. What she didn't know was that her husband's death wasn't an accident but a deliberate murder. Not long before, Mi-yeon's husband Han Myung-ho had invented a vanilla cosmetic, but the patent was stolen by President Gu Jae-myung of J Company. Han Myung-ho was furious when he found out and immediately went to J Company to demand answers. It happened to be the day J Company was signing a contract with a foreign company. President Gu was afraid the truth would come out and quickly ordered security to throw Han Myung-ho out. So Han Myung-ho contacted his journalist friend Hong In-cheol and gave him all the materials, hoping Hong In-cheol would help expose J Company's theft of their patent. Because Han Myung-ho had helped Hong In-cheol many times, Hong In-cheol agreed without hesitation. To silence Han Myung-ho, President Gu arranged for a hitman to stage a car accident and bribed the killer to sneak into Han Myung-ho's hospital room and remove his oxygen mask. Han Myung-ho died without knowing why. Having lost both her child and husband, Mi-yeon became like a walking corpse. She barely managed to hold funerals for her husband and child. Then she suddenly remembered her husband had said this was all J Company's conspiracy. Mi-yeon immediately ran to J Company to demand answers but was kicked out by President Gu. She walked down the street in a daze and happened to see J Company promoting new cosmetics. She opened a bottle and smelled it. It was exactly the same as the cosmetics her husband had invented. Mi-yeon was instantly furious and smashed all the cosmetics on the promotion table. President Gu naturally wouldn't pass up such a good opportunity for revenge and directly called the police to arrest Mi-yeon. Soon after, Hong In-cheol bailed Mi-yeon out. Hong In-cheol asked her why she did it, and Mi-yeon told him everything her husband had said. She thought Hong In-cheol could help her seek justice justice, but she never would have guessed that J Company had invested in Eunha's family hospital, and Eunha had naturally become best friends with Yoon Young. After Eunha agreed to marry Hong In-cheol, he naturally became partners with President Gu as well. Then Mi-yeon went to the street and held up a banner looking for witnesses to her husband's car accident, but was arrested by police. Before Mi-yeon could understand what was happening, she was framed by President Gu for embezzling bank funds and sentenced to 2 years in prison. 2 years later, Mi-yeon was finally released. By then, all their family assets had been seized by J Company. Mi-yeon went to the newspaper office to find Hong In-cheol but unexpectedly ran into Eunha. She cursed Eunha as a murderer, but Eunha turned it around, saying Mi-yeon had killed her own child. She should blame herself for not giving birth to a healthier baby. Mi-yeon slapped her across the face. Eunha wanted to hit back but thought of the baby in her belly and held back. She turned to leave, and Mi-yeon immediately chased after her. As they struggled, Mi-yeon was stopped by Eunha's husband. Mi-yeon never would have dreamed that her husband's friend from years ago had become her enemy's husband. Mi-yeon wanted to get back the materials her husband had used to accuse J Company of patent theft, but Hong In-cheol denied ever receiving any materials. At that moment, Mi-yeon instantly understood that Hong In-cheol and President Gu had schemed to put her in prison. Looking at Hong In-cheol and Eunha's happy family, Mi-yeon's heart was filled with resentment. Mi-yeon couldn't understand why her family lived honestly every day but ended up destroyed, while bad people did evil without limits yet lived so happily. Mi-yeon despaired of this cold world. Heartbroken, she walked toward the cold sea, no longer having the courage to live. Just then, she heard her husband calling to her. At that moment, Mi-yeon woke up. She couldn't let her husband and child die in vain. She had to make those bad people get what they deserved. She would take revenge on those who destroyed her family. Soon heaven gave Mi-yeon an opportunity. As she was heading back to her place, she saw it had caught fire, and her cellmate Mi-ae was still sleeping inside. Mi-yeon was heartbroken. Then Mi-yeon was called to the police station to identify a body. Because Mi-yeon's ID was found on Mi-ae's body, the police assumed the burned woman was Mi-yeon. Then Mi-yeon suddenly remembered Mi-ae had said before that after her mother immigrated, she became a multi-billionaire, and Mi-ae wanted to take Mi-yeon to find her mother, saying she would use her mother's money to help Mi-yeon get revenge. After an internal struggle, Mi-yeon decided to impersonate Mi-ae to inherit the billions, then come back to take revenge on those bad people. But before that, she had one more thing to do. That day, while Eunha was shopping at the mall, she suddenly felt severe abdominal pain and collapsed on the ground. Mi-yeon took the opportunity to steal Eunha's 1-year-old daughter Ura. She wanted Eunha to experience the pain of losing a child too. Then Mi-yeon took the child and boarded a plane to America. 30 years passed in a flash. Mi-yeon had become a multi-billionaire and made a powerful return. To prevent her enemies from recognizing her, Mi-yeon changed her name to Kelly Young. She also renamed Ura as Janice. At the same time, Mi-yeon brought along her adopted son Danny. With everything ready, the revenge plan quietly began. On the other side, J Company and Eunha's family hospital had joined forces. After 30 years of development, they had become one of Korea's top conglomerates. They were now enthusiastically holding an anniversary celebration. Yoon Young's son Hae-jun and Eunha's son Seorae's business marriage was also on the agenda. While both families were harmonious, they didn't know a huge crisis was coming. Then Janice joined J Group as a marketing team leader according to plan. Meanwhile, Mi-yeon, disguised as the representative of an investment company with hundreds of billions of dollars in assets, met with the Eunha couple as an investor. The Eunha couple didn't recognize Mi-yeon and had ingratiating smiles on their faces. Their attitude made Mi-yeon extremely satisfied. After entering J Group, Janice carried out sweeping reforms of the group's marketing strategy. This greatly displeased Hae-jun, who was a division director. What shocked him even more was that Janice was actually his first love who had suddenly disappeared 3 years ago. This goes back to 3 years ago. At that time, Janice had secretly returned to Korea for vacation and ended up having a panic attack of claustrophobia in a train bathroom. Fortunately, Hae-jun discovered and rescued her. Because of this fate, the two began a sweet romance. But just when their love was intensifying, Janice suddenly learned that Hae-jun was actually her enemy's son. To avoid hurting her mother, Janice resolutely ended this ill-fated relationship and disappeared from Hae-jun's life forever. Hae-jun, unaware of the truth, had been unable to forget Janice for these 3 years. Hae-jun asked Janice if she remembered him, but Janice pretended she had never seen him. Although Hae-jun didn't believe it, he could only say he had mistaken her for someone else. Soon after, a man whose patent had been stolen by President Gu came to the company to protest. When President Gu learned of this, he immediately sent security to throw the man out. Janice saw this and went forward to mediate, but was taken hostage by the man to the rooftop. When Hae-jun received the news, he rushed to the rooftop to rescue her. While the man was distracted negotiating with Hae-jun, Janice broke free and tried to escape, but the man grabbed her clothes, she slipped, and was about to fall off the building. Hae-jun risked his life to pull Janice back, but ended up falling from the 30th floor with her. Fortunately, firefighters had already laid out cushions below, so they survived. Because of their shared experience of falling from a building, their relationship became subtle. The incident quickly trended online. President Gu was furious because the man had been accusing J Group online of stealing his patent, and now negative comments were increasing. To resolve the crisis, Janice immediately called an emergency board meeting and proposed developing products together with the man to save J Group's negative image. Through Haejun's efforts, they finally reached a settlement, and Janice became a major contributor to the company. To thank Janice, President Gu even invited her to dinner at his home. At the table, Yoon-young mentioned that 3 years ago Haejun had been in a car accident looking for his first love and almost died. It even made the news. Janice was very surprised to hear this and quickly searched online to confirm what happened that year, feeling somewhat guilty. Then Haejun found Janice alone and demanded to know why she was pretending not to know him. This time Janice didn't deny it but asked Haejun back, even if she really was his first love. What difference would it make? Haejun was getting married soon anyway. Hearing this, Haejun wanted to kiss Janice, but Seore happened to see the scene and dropped her glass in shock. Seore immediately called Janice outside and slapped her across the face. Of course, Janice wasn't one to be bullied and was about to hit back when Haejun grabbed her hand. Seore frantically questioned what they were trying to do. Janice didn't want to watch her continue making a scene and chose to leave, while Haejun explained he was just whispering to Janice. To avoid complications, Seore suggested to both families that they get married quickly. The two families' years of business ties had already bound the two children together. Knowing resistance was futile, Haejun accepted it. But how could Janice just watch them get married? The first step of their revenge was to sabotage the marriage alliance between the two families. Later, when several people were chatting at a restaurant, Seore deliberately knocked over coffee, spilling it all over Janice. The two had time alone. Seore kept nagging about that petty matter. Janice slapped her across the face. Seore was completely stunned. Then Janice also mocked her as a pitiful person who couldn't even control her own fiancé, then walked away. Before leaving, she deliberately said to Haejun that when he tried to kiss her, her heart had moved. Hearing this, Haejun began to waver, caught in a difficult choice. Frustrated, he went to a friend's bar to drink and happened to see Janice drunk. Just as he was about to approach her with concern, someone claiming to be Janice's brother suddenly appeared. Haejun initially thought the siblings were too intimate, and when he learned Danny and Janice weren't biological siblings, his jealousy intensified. Little did he know Janice was actually faking being drunk. She and her brother were just acting to gradually break down Haejun and Seore's relationship. To completely cut off contact between Janice and Haejun, Seore arranged a blind date for Janice in Haejun's name. Janice knew Seore couldn't be so kind and had Danny investigate the blind date. Sure enough, as Janice suspected, although Seore introduced her to a rich second generation, he was famously a playboy in their circle. Even so, Janice still agreed to meet the person Seore introduced. In Janice's view, this was an opportunity Seore handed to her on a silver platter. She could use the rich playboy to provoke Haejun. Thinking her scheme had succeeded, Seore specifically arranged a double date. Janice deliberately acted very satisfied with the rich playboy. This was so grating to Haejun. Hearing that the two would meet again for another drink, Haejun kept drinking water to hide his anxiety. The next day at work, Seore and Janice got into the same elevator, but it suddenly malfunctioned. Janice's claustrophobia immediately kicked in. Seeing Janice in so much pain, Seore was also terrified. Fortunately, the elevator quickly returned to normal. After this incident, Seore also learned Janice's fatal weakness. As the day of Haejun and Seore's wedding approached, Haejun had to force himself to forget Janice. But the more he tried to forget, the more he thought of Janice. This feeling drove Haejun crazy. Even when Seore called him, he was distracted. From a woman's sixth sense, Seore felt it must be because of Janice, so she urged the playboy to quickly pursue Janice. Later, Haejun and Janice met at a restaurant. The playboy hugged Janice to assert dominance over Haejun, then arrogantly described Janice's sexiness. Haejun's heart was both nervous and anxious. Just then Danny arrived, though Haejun didn't recognize him. Danny intentionally or unintentionally revealed that the playboy had recently bought a lot of hidden camera equipment, seemingly to secretly film Janice. Hearing this, Haejun became even more uneasy. He rushed to rescue Janice. Danny immediately notified Janice, who immediately pretended to be drunk, slumping drunkenly on the table. The playboy immediately took out his phone and snapped several photos. Just then Haejun stormed over, grabbed the playboy's phone, and woke up the pretending to sleep Janice. But there were many photos on the phone, which made Haejun furious. He slapped the playboy across the face. Then Haejun took Janice and left. The two ran to a grove where Janice slapped him, scolding Haejun for meddling. Haejun argued with her, and their emotions became more and more intense. Janice asked him why he still cared about her when he was getting married. Haejun didn't answer, but his heart had begun to waver. Soon after, Haejun's family and Seore's family held a pre-wedding meeting. Just when the two wealthy families were about to successfully unite through marriage, Haejun said in front of both sets of parents that he wanted to cancel the engagement. This statement nearly scared everyone to death. Seore couldn't handle the blow and fainted on the spot. When Seore woke up, she couldn't swallow this humiliation. So while her parents weren't paying attention, she secretly left home to settle scores with Janice. Janice wasn't surprised at all to see Seore appear, because she had already received news of Haejun canceling the engagement. After Janice opened the door, the enraged Seore rushed into the house and trashed Janice's place, declaring she would never break up with Haejun. Janice wasn't to be outdone and said frankly that no matter what Seore did, she would take Haejun away from her. Hearing this, Seore became even more furious, raised her hand and slapped Janice, then told Janice she and Haejun were impossible because before that happened, she would definitely kill Janice. Then she walked away. After returning home, Seore began a hunger strike. When Haejun learned of this, he bought Seore's favorite, mung bean porridge to visit her. Seore took the opportunity to hug Haejun and begged him not to leave her. Hae-jun had no choice but to confess that Janice was actually his first love he had searched for years. Before, he thought Janice would never come back, so he accepted his parents' arrangement to get engaged to Seare. But now Janice was back, so he hoped Seare would let him go. But Seare didn't listen at all. To make Janice completely disappear from Hae-jun's world, Seare came up with a vicious plan. She told her mother that Janice had claustrophobia. Then Seare found an excuse to trick Janice to the hospital building her mother ran, then made everyone leave work early. Seare then went to the elevator control room. After Janice got into the elevator, Seare mercilessly cut off the elevator power. Janice was immediately trapped inside. She, who had claustrophobia, soon had difficulty breathing. Her survival instinct prompted her to pick up her phone and call her brother Danny. Before she could say where she was, Janice passed out. Danny, who received the news, immediately notified Hae-jun and also told his adoptive mother Mi-yeon. Mi-yeon was extremely anxious when she learned her daughter was trapped in an elevator. She suddenly remembered Eunha had said Janice would go to the hospital today and quickly told Danny to check the hospital first. Then, Hae-jun also rushed over at full speed, but the door was tightly locked. Hae-jun grabbed a fire extinguisher and smashed it hard against the door. He used his phone to confirm there was sound in the elevator and rushed to the control room to open the elevator door. At this time, Danny also arrived. After some rescue efforts, Janice finally recovered. Just then, the paramedics arrived, and everyone quickly sent Janice to the hospital. Hae-jun wanted to go along, but was pushed away viciously by Danny. At the hospital, the doctor notified them that Janice just had a mild concussion and would be fine after resting for a while. Seare looked at photos of her and Hae-jun in love. This genuine love had completely twisted her. Taking advantage of resting at Hae-jun's house, Seare, wearing only underwear, came to Hae-jun's room and actively climbed into his bed. But Hae-jun was completely unmoved and pushed her away with extreme disgust. Even when Seare knelt on the ground begging, all she got was a coat. Seare had completely fallen into madness. Thinking that even if she died, she would take someone with her, she fought with Hae-jun for the steering wheel, wanting to die together with her beloved. Fortunately, at the critical moment, Hae-jun seized control of the car, avoiding tragedy. The next day, when Hae-jun investigated Janice's elevator incident, he accidentally discovered in the dashcam that Seare was the last person to come out. He broke out in a cold sweat, thinking that if he married this poisonous woman, his life would be over. To avoid complications, he returned to the company and immediately announced on the company website that his wedding with Seare had been cancelled. This left Seare unable to show her face. When she saw Janice about to go to work, she came up with another vicious plan. She secretly ran upstairs and suddenly appeared in front of Janice. She grabbed Janice's neck, preparing to throw her to her death. Fortunately, Janice struggled free with all her might. Janice felt this crazy woman was beyond saving. At this time, Seare had lost the will to live. She actually tried to commit suicide by taking pills. Fortunately, her family discovered her in time and rushed her to the hospital for gastric lavage. The doctor felt lucky. If they had been a few minutes later, Seare would have lost her life forever. Eunha looked at her unconscious daughter and became more angry. She furiously ran to Hae-jun's house and slapped him across the face. The two families had a heated argument over this. Then Seare woke up, but her eyes were now lifeless. She secretly left the hospital again. However, this scene was seen by Janice, who rushed up and saved Seare as she was about to commit suicide. At this time, Seare's parents also arrived. They thought their daughter had been bullied by Janice. Eunha immediately grabbed Janice's hair and shoved it into a bucket of water, repeatedly dunking her while asking if she wanted to die here or leave. Unable to take it anymore, Janice had to agree to leave. Eunha, getting the satisfactory response, threw Janice away like trash, then hugged her daughter and quickly left, leaving only Janice crying alone. But things were far from over. To completely break up Hae-jun and Janice, Eunha directly told Hae-jun that he wasn't his current parents' biological child. But she didn't say the child died because of her own fault. Instead, she pushed all the blame onto Hae-jun's long-deceased grandmother, saying Hae-jun's biological mother had an out-of-wedlock pregnancy and died from complications during childbirth years ago. Hae-jun couldn't believe his background was so bizarre. He thought this crazy woman was making up stories, but Eunha's confident expression made him have to believe it. To find out the truth, he secretly went back to the company and searched online for hospital incidents from 30 years ago. But too much time had passed, and Eunha had long erased all information. After careful consideration, he decided to do a paternity test. So Hae-jun went to the genetic testing center and handed the prepared toothbrush to the staff. Mi-yeon, to take revenge on J-Group, had been having people watch Hae-jun's every move. Learning he had done a paternity test, Mi-yeon was very surprised. The test results came out quickly. When he saw the results, he instantly collapsed. He really had no blood relation with Yoon-young. He ran to his grandmother's grave and cried. Hae-jun's heart fell into struggle. Although he really wanted to be with the person he loved, he felt that his grandmother switched the babies to protect his mother. If his background was now exposed by Eunha, his current mother definitely wouldn't be able to live. After careful consideration, Hae-jun finally chose to compromise. Then he went to find Eunha, saying he would break up with Janice and marry Seare, hoping Eunha would keep her promise and bury his background secret forever. Eunha, whose scheme had succeeded, readily agreed. After leaving, Hae-jun called Janice, planning to see her one last time. Little did he know Janice was thinking the same thing. In the end, Hae-jun spoke of breaking up first. Janice thought he didn't want to give up his wealth and felt like an idiot. She picked up the wine on the table and drank it all. She just hoped to spend one last night with Hae-jun before breaking up, leaving beautiful memories. Hae-jun didn't refuse. Soon they arrived at a luxury hotel suite. Janice and Hae-jun looked at each other deeply and reluctantly. Then they kissed passionately with their 6-inch mouths. 2 minutes later, Janice got dressed and left gracefully, while the exhausted Hae-jun fell into a deep sleep. The next next day, Hae-jun was suddenly awakened by the doorbell. Before he could react, the police rushed in and arrested him on charges of sexual assault. When he learned it was Janice who reported it, he looked incredulous. He strongly demanded to see Janice but was refused by the police, who told him suspects couldn't approach victims. Hae-jun had to have the police notify his family to bail him out temporarily. After coming out, Hae-jun immediately went to Janice's house, but the house was already empty. All that remained was a bouquet of flowers Hae-jun had once given Janice. He finally believed he had really been framed by Janice. This matter was quickly put on trending topics by interested parties. Hae-jun was directly pushed to the forefront of public opinion. The board prepared to remove Hae-jun. Mi-yeon was the first to stand up and disagree. She didn't want things to end so simply. In the end, Hae-jun was just suspended. At this time, Eun-ha also found Hae-jun. Her family was in chaos because of her daughter, so she could only reluctantly accept this son-in-law. But they had to wait for the legal verdict before getting married. Janice also stared blankly at the news of Hae-jun's arrest. She had taken revenge but hurt her beloved Hae-jun. Self-blame, regret, and pain made her eyes lose their light and her will to live. Mi-yeon came to give her daughter medicine but found the room empty. Puzzled, she heard water sounds from the bathroom. She knocked but heard no response, and the door was locked. Mi-yeon suddenly had a bad feeling and hurriedly found the spare key. Pushing open the door, she saw Janice soaking in the bathtub. Fortunately, she discovered her in time, and Janice was fine. But for the first time, she, who had always deeply respected her mother, lost her temper with her mother. After Mi-yeon returned to her room, she couldn't help but start to regret. She hadn't expected her revenge to cause her daughter such pain. The next day, Mi-yeon went to the Han River to pay respects to her husband. To her surprise, Hae-jun was also there, and his eyes showed inexplicable grief and pain. This made Mi-yeon feel something unusual and she curiously asked Hae-jun who he was mourning. Hae-jun remained silent, so Mi-yeon stopped asking. The two ate together and accidentally discovered they were both allergic to lemonade. During the conversation, Hae-jun kept avoiding talking about who he was mourning, which made Mi-yeon even more curious. To find out the truth, she deliberately mentioned to Yoon-young that she had run into Hae-jun by the river. Yoon-young was also very surprised because none of their relatives' ashes had been scattered in the Han River. Mi-yeon was even more puzzled. After returning home, Mi-yeon suddenly remembered Hae-jun had been to the paternity testing center. Recalling how Hae-jun had hurriedly hidden documents behind his back, she had a bold guess. Hae-jun might have blood relation problems with his wealthy parents. To prove her suspicion, Mi-yeon had someone follow Hae-jun's mother. After hearing Yoon-young and Eun-ha's conversation, she learned Hae-jun really wasn't President Gu's biological child but was born from Yoon-young and her ex-boyfriend. But this made Mi-yeon even more confused. Even so, Hae-jun was still Yoon-young's biological son. He was still J Group's legitimate heir. So why was Hae-jun afraid of Eun-ha's threats? Before Mi-yeon could figure it out, her secretary told her another piece of news. Nurse Seol, the only one who knew the specific cause of her child's death but later disappeared, had been found, and she was in a nursing home invested in by Eun-ha. Unfortunately, Nurse Seol had become mentally ill. The matter of Nurse Seol had to go back 30 years. When Nurse Seol agreed to help Eun-ha hide the baby swap, Eun-ha promised to send the nurse's daughter with leukemia abroad for treatment and guaranteed Nurse Seol's family would enjoy wealth and luxury for life. But after things settled down, Eun-ha didn't keep her promise. She only paid for the nurse's daughter's medical expenses for 2 months before ignoring her. Nurse Seol's daughter also died from lack of treatment fees. Nurse Seol angrily questioned Eun-ha about why she didn't keep her promise, but Eun-ha twisted the truth, claiming she had done what she promised. It was just that Nurse Seol's daughter was doomed to die young. Hearing this, Nurse Seol instantly became furious. She stood up and was about to expose Eun-ha's crimes to the public, but Eun-ha slapped Nurse Seol across the face and threatened that if she spoke out, she would make her life worse than death for the rest of her days. Then she locked Nurse Seol in a mental hospital. She had been locked up for 30 years. Mi-yeon found Nurse Seol. Looking at the crazed Nurse Seol, Mi-yeon's heart shook. She didn't understand what Nurse Seol had experienced all these years. To constantly observe Nurse Seol's every move, Mi-yeon had her secretary find an old lady to pretend to have Alzheimer's and sneak into the hospital, living in the room next to Nurse Seol. Unexpectedly, the old lady really discovered some clues and quickly reported to Mi-yeon that Nurse Seol would go crazy every time she saw baby images on TV. Mi-yeon's intuition told her that the reason Eun-ha had hidden Nurse Seol here must be related to her child's death. So that day, Mi-yeon deliberately mentioned the nursing home in front of Eun-ha, saying she wanted to sponsor this nursing home. Sure enough, Eun-ha's face changed dramatically and she found various reasons not to let Mi-yeon sponsor it. To avoid alerting them, Mi-yeon had to temporarily give up the idea of sponsorship, but she often visited the nursing home to see Nurse Seol. After discovering this, Eun-ha couldn't help but become suspicious of Mi-yeon's identity. So she had her congressman husband send a private detective to investigate Mi-yeon's identity. At this time, Mi-yeon thought of a key person, the wealthy lady Yoon-young who gave birth the same day. The next day, she invited Yoon-young to do charity work at the nursing home together. They happened to run into Nurse Seol who was out for a walk. When Nurse Seol saw Yoon-young, she quickly covered her face with her hands. She became very agitated and kept asking Yoon-young for forgiveness. Yoon-young and Mi-yeon were extremely puzzled. So Mi-yeon gently comforted Nurse Seol and asked her who really did the bad thing. Hearing this, Nurse Seol looked at Mi-yeon with eyes full of fear, but she still slowly raised her hand and pointed to the opposite wall. Everyone looked back and saw Eun-ha's photo hanging there. Mi-yeon, combined with Nurse Seol's abnormal behavior, guessed Eun-ha must be hiding a shocking secret, and this secret was related to Yoon-young too. At this time, Eun-ha received news that Yoon-young had gone to the hospital. She angrily found the director and demanded to know why she let others approach Nurse Seol, ordering her to quickly drive them away. Then Eun-ha went to discuss countermeasures with her husband. They both agreed that Nurse Seol was now a time bomb and couldn't be kept at that nursing home anymore. They decided to transfer Nurse Seol overnight and send her to a remote island to fend for herself. After receiving Eun-ha's call, the director began packing Nurse Seol's luggage. Little did she know that Nurse Seol's consciousness had somewhat recovered. That night, Nurse Seol carefully opened the room door and escaped. The nursing home's alarm suddenly sounded. Mi-yeon and Eun-ha both received news of Nurse Seol's escape and drove over. At this time, Nurse Seol had run to the woods behind the hospital, stumbling around looking for a way out. She finally reached the road. Just then, a car suddenly appeared behind her. Fortunately, Mi-yeon found her before Eun-ha and quickly helped her into the car and took her home. In the rush, no one noticed the scarf Mi-yeon had given Nurse Seol had fallen to the ground. Not long after they left, Eun-ha and her husband also drove over. Finding Mi-yeon's scarf on the ground, Eun-ha quickly guessed Mi-yeon had taken Nurse Seol away. This made her even more eager to know Mi-yeon's true identity. Then Eun-ha's husband discovered through investigation that the woman now using the alias Kelly had served 1 year in detention for unpaid rent when she was young. Coincidentally, Mi-yeon, with whom they had deep grudges, also lived in the same cell, and the two were close as sisters. Hong In-cheol immediately told Eun-ha about this. Then the two recalled a series of bad things that happened to their family all occurred after Kelly appeared, making them suspect Kelly was taking revenge for the deceased Mi-yeon because of her good relationship with Mi-yeon. But under Hong In-cheol's probing, Mi-yeon firmly denied it, claiming she didn't know anyone named Mi-yeon. Then Hong In-cheol found a woman who had lived in the same cell with Mi-yeon and showed her a photo of Mi-yeon for identification. After looking at it, the woman said the person in the photo didn't look like the Kelly she knew but looked like Mi-yeon. Hong In-cheol was shocked on the spot. Mi-yeon had died in a fire 30 years ago. Could a dead person come back to life? The more Hong In-cheol thought about it, the more chills ran down his spine. The only possibility was that the person who died in the fire from the beginning wasn't Mi-yeon. Hong In-cheol immediately went home and asked his wife if she remembered what Mi-yeon looked like. But it had been over 30 years, and Eun-ha couldn't remember what Mi-yeon looked like at all. To find out if the current Kelly was Mi-yeon, Eun-ha planned to have Mi-yeon and Hae-jun do a paternity test. So she went to Mi-yeon's house. As soon as she entered, she saw Mi-yeon coming out. Eun-ha was almost scared to death. To prevent Mi-yeon from noticing anything unusual, Eun-ha excused herself to use the bathroom and secretly took Mi-yeon's toothbrush and hair from a comb. Then she found an excuse to go to Hae-jun's house and took his toothbrush. The test results came out quickly. The parent-child relationship between the two was indeed established. Eun-ha could no longer control her inner panic and screamed. Then she thought that since Mi-yeon hadn't died, and after 30 years she was still scheming revenge, then her eldest daughter Ura, who went missing back then, was very likely taken away by her. Thinking of this, Eun-ha couldn't sit still anymore. She immediately found Mi-yeon and declared she already knew Mi-yeon's true identity, then directly questioned where her daughter Ura was hidden now. Of course, Mi-yeon wouldn't admit she had taken Ura. She pushed Eun-ha to the ground and coldly told Eun-ha to produce evidence, or she would sue Eun-ha for slander. Eun-ha instantly collapsed, kneeling on the ground crying and begging Mi-yeon to return her daughter. However, no matter how calm Mi-yeon pretended to be in front of Eun-ha, inside she was extremely panicked, because after she and her daughter Janice returned to the country, they hadn't publicly announced their mother-daughter relationship. Once Eun-ha continued investigating, Janice's identity would be exposed sooner or later. It seemed they needed to speed up the revenge, so she ordered her subordinates to start taking action. At the same time, Mi-yeon kept praying that Janice wouldn't learn everything. Over the years, she had long regarded Janice as her biological daughter. She was also afraid that Janice would leave her after learning the truth. The conversation between the two was also overheard by Sayare outside the house. Learning there was news of her sister, Sayare wasn't happy at all but felt extremely disgusted, because back then, Eun-ha went into labor while carrying Sayare, which led to losing her eldest daughter. So Eun-ha had always blamed the responsibility of losing her eldest daughter on Sayare. And for these 30 years, to find her eldest daughter, Eun-ha hadn't cared about Sayare at all. Sayare had always lived in her sister's shadow. Fortunately, her childhood friend Hae-jun had always been by Sayare's side. Because she had Hae-jun as her spiritual pillar, Sayare didn't lose the courage to live from lack of love. This was also why Sayare wanted to be with Hae-jun no matter what. Mi-yeon's revenge opportunity soon arrived. When the Eun-ha couple arrived at the hospital, they learned that because they hadn't paid Mi-yeon's penalty fee in time, the hospital had been seized. News also spread online that Eun-ha's hospital was using prohibited drugs. Not only that, but Hong In-cheol, who was supposed to be nominated as a congressman, was also removed. The successive blows left them breathless. To repay the penalty, desperate Eun-ha prepared to sell the famous painting she had bought from Mi-yeon for 2 billion. But after an expert appraised it, he said this painting was a fake. Hearing this, Eun-ha nearly died on the spot. The Eun-ha couple discussed it and felt they couldn't continue fighting with Mi-yeon like this. So Hong In-cheol found Mi-yeon and asked her to let them go for old time's sake. But Mi-yeon said only their death could atone to her. In his excitement, Hong In-cheol almost said Mi-yeon's child hadn't died, but after stuttering for a long time, he still didn't say it. After returning, Mi-yeon strongly urged her daughter to go abroad, but Janice didn't want to leave. She didn't want to leave her mother to fight alone. Over the years, she had regarded herself as her mother's comrade in arms. With no other choice, Mi-yeon could only tell her about going to prison. Janice finally agreed to her mother's arrangement. Mi-yeon felt she had to speed up the revenge. She domineeringly found President Gu at work. This beast had killed Mi-yeon's husband back then. 30 years in the east, 30 years in the west, the high and mighty President Gu never would have dreamed he would be the disadvantaged party. Previously, Mi-yeon had invested 50 billion in President Gu's real estate development. President Gu had already obtained the land development rights through Hong In-cheol Seol's connections, but Mi-yeon had used other connections to prevent the land development rights from passing final approval. So Mi-yeon was now forcing President Gu to return the 50 billion investment. At this time, President Gu had already spent the investment money on other projects. If he returned the 50 billion, the group would immediately go bankrupt due to a broken capital chain. He begged Mi-yeon to give him more time, but Mi-yeon completely ignored him. Meanwhile, to prevent Eunha from suspecting Janice's identity, Mi-yeon deliberately found someone to impersonate Eunha's daughter. When the Eunha couple heard news of their daughter, they hurriedly followed the clues to a remote countryside location. This place was a coffee shop. Just then, a small motorcycle drove up. They asked the girl if there was someone named Sojung here. The girl said she was Sojung herself. The Eunha couple were completely stunned on the spot. Sojung before them was wearing black stockings, had an ingratiating smile plastered on her face, and was mingling with a group of old men. Eunha really didn't want to believe this was their daughter. After Sojung finished her work, she came before Eunha. They quickly confirmed with the girl the time and place she was lost, and everything matched up. Even the clothes she wore at the time were identical. Eager to find her daughter, Eunha immediately proposed doing a paternity test. Little did she know she had already fallen into Mi-yeon's carefully designed scheme. Earlier, Mi-yeon's secretary had given Janice's toothbrush and hair to Sojung. When they arrived at the testing center, Sojung immediately began an exaggerated performance, acting heartbroken over the hair about to leave her. Eunha could hardly watch. She pulled her husband to turn their backs on Sojung, expressing disgust. This gave Sojung the perfect opportunity. While they weren't paying attention, Sojung switched the DNA samples. Eunha didn't suspect anything and took the samples for testing. Now it was just a matter of waiting for the results. Eunha wanted to send Sojung home, but Sojung, wanting to find out how much money these new parents had, immediately proposed wanting to live at their house. Eunha couldn't refuse and could only take Sojung home. Sojung was thrilled looking at the palace-like room. The image of a complete gold digger emerged naturally. Seeing this, Eunha felt extremely uncomfortable. When the results came out, Eunha was incredibly nervous. Seeing the matching results, the Eunha couple cried tears of joy. The three hugged tightly and wept aloud. In the following days, Sojung became the Eunha couple's daughter and lived at their house. Seore looked at this suddenly appearing sister and was absolutely livid. On the other side, President Gu had kept a mistress outside who had a son. Now the child's mother was going abroad to get married and dumped the child on him to take care of. President Gu was extremely worried about this because before marrying into the wealthy family, he had signed an agreement with his mother-in-law that if he had his own offspring, he would have to leave the wealthy family with nothing. To prevent his wife from knowing about this, he shamelessly begged his adopted son Hae-jun, hoping Hae-jun would lie to his mother saying the illegitimate son was his own child. Of course, Hae-jun wouldn't agree to such an absurd idea. Before President Gu could come up with a better solution, the illegitimate son's mother had already delivered the son to the wealthy family's doorstep. President Gu hurriedly took Hae-jun home, but they were still a step too late. Yoon-young had already seen the child. With maternal instinct, she brought the child into the room. The boy saw President Gu approach and was about to call him dad, but seeing President Gu's gesture, he obediently shut his mouth. Hae-jun quickly pulled the child over, using the excuse that he was a friend's child, and took him away. Hae-jun told the boy they were going to play a game where he had to call President Gu grandpa and Yoon-young grandma. If he won the game, he would get a present. Hearing about presents, the boy instantly got excited. Sure enough, he obediently settled down in this house according to the game rules. The peaceful days hadn't lasted 2 days when Seore discovered the boy's existence. Yoon-young explained he was Hae-jun's friend's child. Previously, the friend had brought the child to the company, but Seore clearly remembered it was the child's mother who brought the child, and Hae-jun didn't know that woman at all. This made Seore suspicious. At this time, the boy was playing with a remote control car nearby. Seore remembered President Gu had also bought one before. The boy, who didn't understand anything, blurted out that dad had bought it for him. Realizing he had said the wrong thing, the boy quickly covered his mouth, but Seore immediately guessed this was President Gu's illegitimate son. Of course, Eunha also soon learned this news. Hearing her best friend had been cheated on, Eunha laughed with great joy. When she saw her best friend completely oblivious, still happily spending time with the boy, Eunha's twisted pleasure became even stronger. At the same time the illegitimate son moved into President Gu's house, Mi-yeon also learned this news. Then she used this matter to threaten President Gu to voluntarily step down. President Gu was so angry his lungs were about to explode. He vowed never to become a beggar with his son. Soon after, the board meeting to remove President Gu's position was held as scheduled. Just as Mi-yeon was about to attend the meeting, an unfamiliar black van pulled up. Then Mi-yeon was kidnapped. President Gu promised the thugs that as long as they could last past the board meeting time, he would reward them with 100 million in cash. After discovering Mi-yeon had been kidnapped, her secretary immediately sent people to investigate. After much searching, the secretary finally found out it was a black van that had abducted Mi-yeon, but she couldn't be rescued right away. The board meeting wouldn't pause for this. Fortunately, they still had one ace up their sleeve. Janice, using false orders from President Gu, easily took the illegitimate son out of the house. At the same time, Mi-yeon took advantage of the thugs' inattention and successfully escaped. When Janice brought the illegitimate son to the company, she happened to encounter the severely injured Mi-yeon at the entrance. Both parties assembled, ready to give President Gu a devastating blow. At this time, President Gu was still on stage basking smugly in everyone's admiration. The door suddenly opened. Mi-yeon and Janice made a powerful entrance. President Gu was scared out of his wits. The illegitimate son even popped out from behind. loudly calling out, "Dad." Seeing this, Yoon was so angry she fainted on the spot. Then she walked heartbroken through the cold streets. Hae-jun, worried something might happen to his mother, quickly ran to the street to comfort her. Unexpectedly, a small car suddenly sped toward them. Hae-jun was directly hit and flew through the air, then crashed heavily to the ground. Yoon was absolutely devastated when she discovered this. Before falling unconscious, Hae-jun used his last strength to keep apologizing to Yoon, saying he must be Yoon's real son in his next life. Then he passed out. Yoon was confused and had no idea what he meant, but she had no time to think carefully. She quickly sent Hae-jun to the hospital. After a night of emergency treatment, although Hae-jun's life was saved, his head had been hit during the car accident, and he might become a vegetable. Yoon was utterly desperate. Just then, the doctor brought more bad news. The doctor told Yoon that Hae-jun's kidneys had also been severely damaged and he needed an immediate kidney transplant. Yoon didn't hesitate for a moment and immediately wanted to donate her kidney to Hae-jun. But to her surprise, her compatibility test showed not a single indicator matched. This made Yoon suspicious. Even the doctor couldn't help but ask whether Hae-jun was her biological son. Yoon recalled what Hae-jun had said to her during the car accident, and her unease grew stronger. So Yoon immediately went home, took Hae-jun's hair, and did a paternity test. The test results came out quickly. The results showed they really had no blood relation. Yoon suddenly felt like the sky was falling. The son she had painstakingly raised for 30 years wasn't her biological child. Yoon suddenly thought that Hae-jun had been delivered by her best friend Eun-ha. So Yoon immediately ran to question Eun-ha about why Hae-jun wasn't her biological son. Eun-ha knew the baby swap couldn't be hidden anymore, so she confidently told Yoon that Yoon's child had already died at birth. It was Yoon's mother who, afraid her daughter would be heartbroken, had instructed Eun-ha to swap the dead infant with another healthy baby. Eun-ha also said she was Hae-jun's savior. Without her, Hae-jun wouldn't have become the heir of the wealthy family. Although Yoon was naive, she wasn't stupid. She didn't believe her mother would do such an unconscionable thing, so she began investigating what had happened back then. After some investigation, Yoon learned that Nurse Seol knew the truth from that year. So with Miyeon's arrangement, she visited Nurse Seol. In her confused state, Nurse Seol mistook Yoon for Miyeon and revealed the truth about Eun-ha's baby swap. This news was like a bolt from the blue. Yoon never imagined Hae-jun was Miyeon's son. Before she could sort out her emotions, Miyeon happened to come in. She ran out of the hospital room without saying a word. For a moment, she was actually afraid Miyeon would take Hae-jun away if she learned the truth. Full of anger with nowhere to vent, she immediately went to Eun-ha's house. Without a word, she rushed forward and grabbed Eun-ha by the throat, cursing that Eun-ha wasn't even human, making such a mistake and still daring to slander her mother. Eun-ha fainted on the spot from being choked. Even so, Yoon still didn't feel satisfied, so she brought a basin of cold water and splashed it on Eun-ha's face. Just as Yoon was about to do it a second time, she was pushed down by Eun-ha. Eun-ha knew Yoon's weakness well. If Miyeon knew Hae-jun was her son, she would definitely do everything possible to take her son back. Eun-ha bet Yoon wouldn't reveal any of this, and if Yoon dared to continue harming her, she would tell Miyeon about Hae-jun's identity. Then she arrogantly walked away. Yoon was completely intimidated by her, but Yoon kept one card up her sleeve. She had secretly recorded the conversation between them. While listening to the recording, President Gu accidentally heard everything. President Gu was also shocked. He immediately threatened his wife that if she insisted on making him leave with nothing, he would tell Miyeon about Hae-jun's identity. Yoon could only compromise. Then Yoon came to the hospital. Looking at the unconscious Hae-jun, her heart ached. Because of Eun-ha, Yoon transferred her anger to Eun-ha's daughter. She forbade Seara from visiting her son but welcomed her enemy Janice inside. Janice spent all day at Hae-jun's bedside. Perhaps through telepathy, Hae-jun's body actually showed a response. Hearing that Hae-jun was about to wake up, Janice was extremely excited. Seara understood that when Hae-jun woke up, he would definitely return to Janice's side. She would never allow this to happen. If she couldn't have him, she would destroy him. She directly removed Hae-jun's oxygen mask. Hae-jun immediately had difficulty breathing. Just then, footsteps approached. Scared, Seara quickly hid in the nearby closet. The person who entered the hospital room was Miyeon. Seeing Hae-jun breathing rapidly, Miyeon quickly prepared to put the oxygen mask back on Hae-jun. But she was suddenly seen by Janice, who rushed in, who thought Miyeon was trying to kill Hae-jun. This time, Janice completely came to hate her mother. Although Miyeon tried hard to explain, Janice wouldn't listen at all. Under Miyeon's careful care, Nurse Seol's consciousness gradually recovered. But before she could reveal the truth from that year, she was captured by Eun-ha, who wanted to hide the secret. Although Nurse Seol successfully escaped by taking advantage of an opportunity, during her escape, due to lack of stamina, she was unconscious for 2 days and nights in minus 50-degree weather before being discovered. By the time she was sent to the hospital, she had already stopped breathing. Nurse Seol's death was a huge blow to Miyeon. She immediately launched a full-scale retaliation against Eun-ha's family. Under Miyeon's attacks, Eun-ha's family went completely bankrupt. Their house was also about to be seized by the court. Seeing this, Sojung was stunned. She had just enjoyed a few days of rich life and was being thrown back to the slums. She thought rich people must have backup plans, so she secretly eavesdropped at the door. Sure enough, she heard a secret. She quickly contacted Miyeon's secretary and told her about Eun-ha's baby swap. Hearing this, Miyeon instantly understood that the child who died back then was Yoon's, and Hae-jun was her son. At this time, Janice came in saying sorry. She had just learned that Seore had also been hiding in the hospital room that day. Mother and daughter stood on the same front again. The next day, when no one was in the hospital room, the nurse quickly called to notify Mi-yeon. She immediately took Hae-jun's hair for a paternity test. Seeing the test report, Mi-yeon could no longer control her tears. For 30 years, she had always thought her son had died. Now discovering her son had grown into an adult, she was both excited and guilty, while her hatred for Eunha deepened. Mi-yeon's heart ached. At this time, Yoon-young was very surprised to see Mi-yeon here. To prevent her son from being taken away, Yoon-young hid the truth she knew, but she didn't know Mi-yeon had already learned everything. The two tacitly didn't break through the window paper. Perhaps through mother-son connection, Hae-jun's fingers suddenly showed a response. This was a sign of improvement, but Mi-yeon quickly left the hospital room. She had no face to face Hae-jun. After all, she had done many things to hurt Hae-jun before. Thinking of this, she ran outside the hospital room and cried aloud. On the other side, because of bankruptcy, Eunha was about to live on the streets. This made her desperate. She believed Mi-yeon's biggest weakness was Hae-jun. So Eunha bribed a nurse to secretly take Hae-jun away from the hospital. Hong In-cheol was very worried about his wife's actions, afraid Hae-jun's two mothers would call the police. But Eunha seemed indifferent because she still had one last trump card, evidence that Yoon-young's current husband had killed Hae-jun's biological father. Hae-jun's disappearance panicked both Mi-yeon and Yoon-young. They immediately guessed it might be Eunha. Then Mi-yeon called Eunha first, questioning why she kidnapped Hae-jun. Eunha sneered, saying this was all Mi-yeon's fault. If Mi-yeon hadn't taken away her house and hospital, she would never have taken such a risk. She declared that as long as Mi-yeon returned the house and hospital, Hae-jun would naturally return safely. Mi-yeon helplessly agreed, but her only requirement was that Eunha couldn't tell Hae-jun she was his mother. Then Eunha called Yoon-young, asking to meet alone. After Yoon-young arrived at the agreed location, like a crazed lioness, she grabbed Eunha by the collar and demanded she hand over Hae-jun. But Eunha wasn't angry. Instead, she laughed. Then she produced all the evidence that President Gu had stolen Hae-jun's biological father's patent and killed him to silence him. She threatened Yoon-young that if she didn't give money, she would tell Hae-jun about this. Then, Yoon-young would definitely completely lose her son Hae-jun. Both Mi-yeon and Yoon-young were desperate to save their son. They both agreed to Eunha's unreasonable conditions. Then they frantically raised money while having Janice monitor Eunha's house 24 hours a day. Finally, by following Seore, they found where Hae-jun was located. But Eunha was too cunning. Discovering they hadn't come to deliver the money for a long time, she immediately guessed Hae-jun's location had probably been exposed. She quickly called her husband and told him to move Hae-jun. When Yoon-young and the others arrived, Hae-jun was no longer in the hospital room. Fortunately, hospital surveillance captured the ambulance leaving. So based on the direction the ambulance drove, they deduced Hae-jun was most likely moved to Eunha's house. However, before they could take action, Seore, afraid that when Hae-jun woke up and learned his parents had kidnapped him for money, would definitely break up with her completely. The more Seore thought about it, the more twisted she became. She again wanted to kill Hae-jun. She slowly removed Hae-jun's oxygen mask. Just then, the unconscious Hae-jun suddenly opened his eyes. Seore was so scared she fell to the ground. Fortunately, Eunha arrived in time, avoiding Hae-jun's death. Then Eunha received Yoon-young's ransom. Now she just had to wait for Mi-yeon's ransom. But just as Seore was about to go out, Janice was already blocking the door. They believed Hae-jun must be hidden in Eunha's house. So one person went to call the police while the other desperately called out for Hae-jun. Perhaps through telepathy, Hae-jun really woke up. Soon the police came and easily found Hae-jun. The Eunha couple arrived at the police station. Hong In-cheol pulled out his congressman ID and brushed the matter aside with a few words. Now they just needed the parties involved not to pursue it. Eunha was certain Yoon-young would let it go. When Mi-yeon learned Yoon-young wouldn't pursue it, she was beside herself. She really couldn't understand why they couldn't call the police and have the Eunha couple arrested. But Yoon-young directly knelt on the ground, begging Mi-yeon to forgive her. Yoon-young knew it was her husband who had harmed Mi-yeon's husband. She also wanted her husband and Eunha to be punished. But right now, the evidence was in Eunha's hands. If Hae-jun knew about this, their shared child would fall into a painful cycle. Should he forgive the adoptive father who raised him for 30 years, or avenge his biological father by killing his adoptive father? Whatever Hae-jun did, he would spend the rest of his life in regret. So Yoon-young hoped Mi-yeon wouldn't continue pursuing this. Mi-yeon had witnessed her husband's death with her own eyes. Now she couldn't make the bad people be punished, but she still decided to get the evidence back first. She rushed to Eunha's house and slapped her across the face. Then she threw a big bag of cash in front of Eunha, demanding Eunha immediately produce the evidence of President Gu's murder from back then. Eunha also mocked her for hurting her son and now not daring to acknowledge him. Little did she know her missing eldest daughter was Mi-yeon's daughter Janice, who had long been hurt beyond repair by Eunha. On the other side, Yoon-young didn't want to continue living with a murderer, so she proposed divorce and told President Gu to pack his bags and get out immediately. Because of this, the two had a heated argument in the room, but Hae-jun happened to come home and overheard that his biological mother was still alive in this world. To find out who his biological mother was, he quickly contacted a trusted subordinate and had them check the list of mothers who gave birth the day he was born. Looking at the names on the list, he was surprised to find that only Mi-yeon's son had died accidentally on the day he was born. Hae-jun instantly understood Mi-yeon was his biological mother. He rushed to Mi-yeon's office, tears streaming down his face, asking Mi-yeon if she was his mother. Seeing this, Mi-yeon also broke down in tears on the spot. thought. 30 years of waiting, 30 years of longing, now mother and son were finally reunited. The two hugged excitedly. On the other side, Janice suddenly received a call from Sojung, saying that as long as she paid, Sojung would tell her secrets about Haejun. She had always been very concerned about matters regarding Haejun. She quickly ran to the agreed coffee shop. She never would have dreamed that Haejun was actually the swap child. Just as Janice's mind was racing, Eunha also came looking for her. For this fake daughter, she had also worried herself sick. Previously, when Eunha kidnapped Haejun, Sojung, seeing how ruthless Eunha's family was, left a farewell letter and fled. Eunha was going crazy trying to find Sojung. Today, finally encountering her, she had to get to the bottom of things. Seeing this, Sojung prepared to flee. Unexpectedly, she was tripped by Janice and fell to the ground. Facing the insane Eunha, she was so scared she told the truth, saying she wasn't Eunha's daughter but was a fake bought by someone. She only knew she was bought by a young female secretary. She knew nothing else. After saying this, she ran away in panic. Eunha was completely dumbfounded, not knowing where her daughter actually was. She thought this must be Miyun's conspiracy. Then she rushed to Miyun's office and made a big scene like a crazy woman. But she accidentally learned Haejun was about to marry Janice. Eunha's worldview completely exploded, because according to Miyun's statement, Haejun and Janice were biological siblings. How could biological siblings get married? The only explanation was they weren't biological siblings at all. This made Eunha smell a hint of conspiracy. She went back and discussed this with her husband. Through her husband's investigation, she learned that Miyun's child had been swapped by Eunha at birth. Over all these years, she hadn't remarried, so Janice might not be Miyun's child. Could Janice be her long-lost daughter? The terrible thought lingered in Eunha's mind. She went to Janice's office and stole a toothbrush, preparing to do a paternity test. Miyeon, who had been secretly following, learned Eunha had become suspicious. She created a fake paternity test report to get through, but Eunha was extremely cunning. She asked 2 paternity testing centers to do the test and had them send results to her home separately. The Eunha couple nervously opened the reports. Sure enough, as she suspected, Janice was their daughter who had been lost for 30 years. Learning the truth, Eunha rushed into Miyun's house. Without saying a word, she delivered a slap first. After venting her inner anger, Eunha demanded Miyun hand over her daughter. Miyun also stopped hiding and admitted Janice's identity, but she didn't want Eunha to reveal everything because that would only cause Janice pain. Eunha could no longer endure the pain of losing her daughter. She didn't take Miyun's words to heart at all. She just wanted to take back her daughter. But Miyun also truly regarded Janice as her biological daughter. She even knelt down to stop Eunha. Janice had finally prepared to enter the palace of marriage. Miyun didn't want her daughter to be hurt again, but Eunha selfishly left anyway. Miyun quickly contacted Haejun, telling them not to answer Eunha's calls. Then she contacted Eunha's husband Hong In-cheol, asking him to help persuade Eunha not to do things that would hurt the children. After Hong In-cheol's persuasion, Eunha finally sobered up a bit, but Seore overheard all this. Learning her former fiancé was about to marry Janice, she quickly asked Haejun out, but they happened to run into Janice in the lobby. The two immediately started arguing in a private room. Seore first splashed Janice, drenching her. Fortunately, she still didn't know Janice was her sister, or she would have been even more devastated. Seeing this scene, Eunha's heart ached terribly. On one side, she pitied Seore for her broken heart. On the other, she felt sorry for her disaster-ridden eldest daughter. So she demanded Miyun transfer all assets to Janice's name and disappear immediately after Janice and Haejun got married, never appearing before Janice and Haejun again. For the children's happiness, Miyun agreed to all demands. Meanwhile, to prevent Seore from ruining Janice and Haejun's wedding, Hong In-cheol decided to send Seore abroad. Through Eunha's coaxing, Seore decided to leave Seoul before the wedding. The day of departure came quickly, but the visa was left at home. While looking for the visa, she accidentally found a paternity test report. It showed Janice and her mother had a parent-child relationship. This meant her sister had taken away her man, and her parents, to help her sister, had even tricked her abroad. She couldn't tolerate her parents favoring her sister so much. Then she burned all her sister's childhood belongings. The next day, she pretended to leave for study abroad. In reality, she investigated more of Janice's secrets. She took out a lot of money to bribe President Gu, who had been kicked out by Yoon-young. She learned Haejun was actually Miyun's son. This meant her sister would marry her enemy's son. She thought. Janice definitely didn't know about this. Then she asked Janice to meet at a coffee shop and handed over the evidence she had collected to Janice. Janice never would have dreamed that she was actually kidnapped by her mother and trained as a revenge pawn, and she was the daughter of her previous revenge target. Although Janice was conflicted inside, the wedding still went ahead as scheduled. Just as the officiant announced the bride's entrance, Seore replaced Janice, wearing a pure white beautiful wedding dress and slowly walking onto the stage. When the spotlight hit Seore's face, Haejun's happy smile instantly froze. The guests' warm applause also became dead silent. Seore didn't care about the strange looks people cast at her. Her eyes were full of love for Haejun. She walked expectantly to Haejun. Seeing this, Haejun was completely dumbfounded. He quickly ran out to find Janice, but all he found was a discarded wedding dress. Facing the chaotic wedding scene, Seore didn't feel guilty at all, and facing her mother's questioning, Seore just sneered and asked her mother back. Did destroying her sister's wedding make her mother heartbroken? Eunha didn't expect Seore knew the truth. On the other side, Janice walked the streets like a walking corpse. Seeing mothers and daughters around her enjoying their time together, recalling the beautiful memories with her mother, Janice felt extremely sad at this moment. As soon as she got home, she smashed everything to pieces. When Miyun saw the hate-filled Janice, she was willing to accept any punishment, just begging her daughter not to resent her. But Janice didn't intend to forgive this kidnapper. She dragged her luggage and prepared to leave home. At this time, Eunha happened to arrive. Janice, in front of Mi-yeon, went home with her biological mother Eun-ha. This scene was like stabbing Mi-yeon's heart hard. Mi-yeon locked herself in her room and cried helplessly. Although she had anticipated this day, when it arrived, Mi-yeon still felt despair. Janice and Eun-ha returned home. When Seara saw her sister, she felt extremely uncomfortable. Now not only would her fiancé be taken away, but her parents would probably also distance themselves from her. So she simply made her parents choose, her or Janice. But after she finished speaking and turned around, she saw her mother had prepared a big table of food, protecting Janice like a mother hen. This made Seara furious. She not only smashed the bowls to pieces but also viciously pushed Janice to the ground, telling her to die and not appear before her. Her parents all protected Janice. At this time, Hae-jun happened to arrive. Unexpectedly, this disaster-ridden couple, before even having their wedding, had already obtained a marriage certificate. Hae-jun still wanted to continue with Janice, but Janice directly proposed divorce. She would never marry her enemy's son. Mi-yeon also came looking, confessing about all the past, but Janice told her adoptive mother to die. Facing Hae-jun's heartfelt confession, facing her adoptive mother's repentance, facing her sister's aggressiveness, Janice felt extremely painful. As soon as she got home, she fell seriously ill. Eun-ha quickly found Mi-yeon, demanding she fulfill her original promise and hand over her property and life. But now everyone was on the edge of collapse. Mi-yeon naturally wouldn't agree. Unexpectedly, Yoon-young also came to the door, hoping Mi-yeon could leave Seoul as soon as possible and not let the children suffer secondary harm. Instantly, Mi-yeon became public enemy number one. She decided to do one last thing for the children. She walked with heavy steps toward the cold sea. Fortunately, Janice appeared in time, avoiding tragedy. Janice didn't want Mi-yeon to die like this. She had been deceived for 30 years. She also wanted Mi-yeon to endure 30 years of punishment, making Mi-yeon suffer in pain and torment until death from now on. But before she had taken 2 steps, Janice fell heavily to the ground. Then everyone rushed to the hospital. The doctor notified them not to let the patient be stimulated anymore. He also said Janice's liver was in very bad condition. Learning her daughter had a serious illness, Eun-ha didn't know what to do for a moment. Hae-jun brought loving chicken soup. Janice only tasted 1 sip. She knew this was her adoptive mother's flavor. She couldn't help but feel nauseous from the bottom of her heart. It made her feel somewhat unable to breathe. The day of discharge came quickly. As soon as she got home, she was ruthlessly mocked by Seara, resenting that Janice had taken away the love and affection that should have belonged to her. Dad, to avoid stimulating Janice, quickly pushed Seara into the room. All this could have been avoided, but Eun-ha wouldn't take all the blame. Hong In-cheol wouldn't give up the wealthy family life either. The two's unrepentant conversation was overheard by Janice. Janice earnestly advised her parents that if they had properly apologized back then, she wouldn't have been kidnapped. Her sister Seara wouldn't have been hurt because of her. She wouldn't have taken revenge on her biological parents and sister. However, Eun-ha felt she had done nothing wrong. She blamed all the fault on Mi-yeon. Janice was extremely disappointed in her biological mother's thinking. The next day, Janice asked Hae-jun to meet at the riverside. Seeing Janice's face full of smiles again, Hae-jun thought Janice had finally emerged from the shadow. Janice asked Hae-jun if he would follow her even if she died. Hae-jun firmly answered yes. At this time, Mi-yeon also rushed over. The two happily greeted Mi-yeon. Mi-yeon also responded happily. But the next second, Janice forcibly hugged Hae-jun and jumped into the river. Mi-yeon was shocked and horrified. She frantically rushed forward wanting to save them. Fortunately, passers-by nearby stopped Mi-yeon in time, preventing her from jumping in too. Then the police arrived. After a search and rescue operation, they found Hae-jun and Janice downstream. Then they were both sent to the hospital. Soon after, Hae-jun woke up. Janice, being physically weaker, was still unconscious. Hae-jun stayed by her bedside every day. After learning it was Janice who pulled Hae-jun to commit suicide, Yoon-young hated Janice even more. Soon after, Janice woke up. Just when everyone thought everything could get back on track, the doctor said that because Janice had a weak constitution and had soaked in the cold river water for too long, she now had severe liver cirrhosis. The only solution was a liver transplant. The Eun-ha couple were extremely anxious when they learned this. They immediately went for compatibility tests. Unfortunately, neither met the conditions for liver donation. Now the only hope was her sister Seara. But Seara refused to donate no matter what. She even hoped Janice would die, which would make her happy. Only now did the Eun-ha couple understand that giving children the best doesn't necessarily cultivate talent. The most important thing is establishing correct values. Hong In-cheol mobilized his connections, preparing to have everyone come for compatibility tests. But Janice didn't want surgery. She simply didn't want to live. In a daze, she walked to Mi-yeon's building. Mi-yeon, seeing her pale-faced daughter, offered the most sincere greetings. But Janice directly fainted. At the hospital, Mi-yeon learned her daughter must have a liver transplant or she wouldn't survive the month. Everyone quickly went for compatibility tests. The doctor notified them that both Mi-yeon and Hae-jun could donate. According to the doctor's standards, the young Hae-jun was more suitable for donation than Mi-yeon. But Yoon-young absolutely refused. Even when Eun-ha knelt before her and begged, Yoon-young remained unmoved. At this time, Eun-ha learned Mi-yeon also met the liver donation requirements. She immediately turned on Yoon-young, saying she took back her earlier kneeling. Yoon-young was quite speechless at her ugly face. Mi-yeon knew that if the donation was in her name, Janice definitely wouldn't agree to the surgery. So she donated under Eun-ha's name. Soon the day of surgery arrived. Janice looked at Eun-ha beside her with deep gratitude. Little did she know Mi-yeon was wheeled into the operating room right after the tense surgery ended. Janice's condition recovered very well, but Mi-yeon was sent to intensive care due to excessive blood loss and complications. Soon after, Janice was almost fully recovered. Eunha happily served Janice. Sae laughed at this warm yet absurd scene. While Janice was in the bathroom, Sae angrily scolded Janice to move out immediately when she got better and return Haejun to her. It turned out this was all Eunha's idea. She promised that as long as Sae didn't reveal the source of the liver, she would help bring Sae and Haejun together. At this time, Yoonyoung also found Janice, hoping Janice could divorce Haejun as soon as possible. Janice agreed to divorce immediately after discharge. The day of discharge came quickly. Everyone even prepared a celebratory welcome ceremony. While organizing her belongings, Janice looked at the divorce agreement in her hand. She silently made a decision. Eunha thought her daughter would choose to part amicably with Haejun, but Janice still insisted on staying with Haejun until old age. But there was still Sae's obstacle to overcome. Eunha guaranteed she would convince Sae, telling Janice not to worry. Unexpectedly, Sae was right outside the door hearing all this. Her mother had deceived her again because of her sister. Since her mother was unkind, don't blame her for being unrighteous. She immediately rushed in and revealed the truth about the liver donation. Hearing this, Janice instantly collapsed. Janice frantically rushed to the hospital and said many vicious things to her adoptive mother. Fortunately, Haejun and others arrived in time, avoiding both of them reopening their old wounds. Janice's words lingered in Miyun's mind. Her body, which hadn't recovered yet, suffered tremendous pain due to emotional fluctuations. That night, she developed a high fever. The doctor told Miyun that due to her advanced age, severe postoperative complications had occurred, causing liver function to stop. In the worst case, she might only have one more year to live. Miyun was like a bolt from the blue when she heard this, but she quickly accepted it calmly. To avoid becoming a burden to the children, Miyun hid her condition and left alone. Learning Miyun was missing, Janice couldn't hide her worry either. Danny handed her a document, a guarantee letter Eunha had once forced Miyun to write, promising to transfer all property to Janice and never appear before Janice again. Miyun had agreed to protect Janice and Haejun's love. Only now did Janice understand Miyun's love for her. The only one who was truly afraid of her being hurt was Miyun. To the Eunha couple, she was just a placeholder. After returning, she asked her parents to sincerely apologize to Miyun. After all, if Eunha hadn't swapped the baby back then, Miyun wouldn't have kidnapped her. But Eunha still believed she had done nothing wrong. She felt she had made Haejun the heir of the wealthy conglomerate. Miyun should thank her instead. And Miyun had also kidnapped Janice. Not only should they not apologize to Miyun, Miyun should kneel down and beg for their forgiveness. Hearing this, Janice was completely disappointed. She could no longer stay in this house. And up until she left, she never called them mom and dad. Then Janice, for love, moved directly into Haejun's house despite Yoonyoung's opposition. After all, they were already legally married. The two just knelt at Yoonyoung's door begging for forgiveness. At this time, Janice received a call learning Miyun only had 1 year left. Only now did she understand why Miyun had suddenly disappeared. The two went to the church to find Miyun, but Miyun didn't know how to face the children and secretly left the church. In a trance, she saw Janice's figure across the street. The next second, she fainted from lack of strength. Janice received a call from the hospital saying Miyun had been sent back by a good Samaritan. They rushed over and caught Miyun, who was about to escape again. Seeing Janice, Miyun knew Janice wouldn't let her leave, so she could only say harsh words against her will, saying she and Janice were now enemies worse than strangers. Before she died, she didn't want to see Janice's extremely disgusting face again. Hearing this, Janice's heart felt like it was being pricked by needles. Then she said she had been deceived for 30 years, so Miyun must suffer the same pain. Now revenge wasn't over, so Miyun couldn't die. Miyun must return to the hospital for treatment. Miyun reluctantly agreed, but she had one condition: until Janice got her future mother-in-law's approval, she couldn't appear before Miyun. Miyun's true inner thought was that in the last moments of her life, she wanted to see Janice and Haejun happy. Janice reluctantly agreed because she knew Haejun's adoptive mother Yoonyoung was still hung up on her, pulling Haejun to commit suicide to revenge Miyun. So she went to find Yoonyoung. Without a word, she fell to her knees. Haejun also knelt down with her. The two knelt all night. Janice also took on household chores. Even when Yoonyoung drove her away, she didn't get angry. She humbly smiled ingratiatingly, just to quickly get Yoonyoung's forgiveness so she could visit Miyun. But Yoonyoung just wouldn't agree to let them stay together. At this time, Eunha also found Yoonyoung, hoping to bring Haejun and Janice together. Seeing her made Yoonyoung furious. If it weren't for her negligence back then, her child wouldn't have died. Yoonyoung told her to sever the mother-daughter relationship with Janice, and then she might forgive Janice's actions. But how could Eunha agree? The two could only part on bad terms. As soon as Eunha got home, Hong In-cheol proposed going to sincerely apologize to Miyun. At this time, through his daughter Janice's tragic experience, Hong In-cheol had realized his mistakes. But Eunha still insisted she had done nothing wrong. She even said it would be good for everyone if Miyun died like this. Hearing this, her husband felt she was beyond redemption, so he went alone to the hospital to find Miyun. Then he fell to his knees, tearfully confessing his mistakes to Miyun. After many years, Miyun finally received this apology. In the end, she chose to forgive Hong In-cheol. The only thing she couldn't let go of now was Janice. Learning Yoonyoung still refused to forgive and accept Janice, Miyun, dragging her sick body, came to Yoonyoung's house. Then she knelt before Yoonyoung, asking her to help Janice and Haejun. Yoonyoung finally softened, but she had one requirement: Janice and Eunha must completely sever their relationship from now on. Yoon thought Janice couldn't do it, but to her surprise, ever since Janice learned Eunha didn't care about her feelings and only wanted to use her to threaten Miyeon to leave, she had been completely disappointed in Eunha, so she immediately promised Yoon she was willing to completely sever the mother-daughter relationship with Eunha. A few days later, Janice and Haejun held their wedding again with the blessing of the whole family. Seeing her son and daughter so happy, Miyeon cried tears of joy. After the wedding ended, Miyeon still couldn't defeat the illness. In the end, she left without regrets in Janice's company. Hong In-cheol was extremely sad when he learned this news. He didn't expect his wife Eunha to be heartless enough not to apologize even after Miyeon's death. He could no longer tolerate his wife's cold-bloodedness. He simply proposed divorce and moved out. Seeing this, Seore said that if they really divorced, she wouldn't stay in this house either. But Eunha didn't care at all because she felt she still had her eldest daughter Janice. But the next day, when she went to visit Janice showed no joy at all. She even questioned why Eunha came without saying anything. Then Janice told Eunha that from now on, she should act as if she didn't have this daughter and not come looking for her anymore. Hearing this, Eunha instantly collapsed. After returning home, she became dejected. Every day she relied on alcohol to numb herself. Seore couldn't stand watching this. She advised her to cherish the people around her, but Eunha blamed Seore for Janice severing their relationship. Seore couldn't tolerate continuing to live in this dysfunctional family. She also chose to leave. At this time, Eunha finally regretted it. She quickly chased out wanting to make amends, but as soon as she went out, she got her comeuppance. A small car sped toward her. The harsh sound of brakes made Seore stop in her tracks. When Seore turned around, Eunha was already lying in a pool of blood. Everyone quickly sent Eunha to the hospital. Then, although Eunha was saved, her brain had suffered irreparable damage. From then on, she became mentally disabled. At this time, she had forgotten everyone except her youngest daughter Seore. Before, all her heart was on her lost eldest daughter. Now she stuck to Seore 24 hours a day. Seore used to feel she had never experienced maternal love. Now seeing her mother, Seore was even a bit scared, but she was still gratified that her mother loved her so much. However, only Eunha herself knew that all this mental disability was fake. She actually wasn't sick at all. She just wanted to use this method to sever her relationship with Janice and gain everyone's forgiveness. Janice felt this might be the best outcome. At the end of the story, Seore and Danny got together. President Gu was imprisoned for various crimes. Although Yoon was extremely resentful of President Gu having an illegitimate son, she still decided to help raise President Gu's illegitimate son. 2 years later, Janice and Haejun had a son. From then on, they lived a shameless and happy life. This concludes the entire plot of the Korean drama, Elegant Mother and Daughter. Thank you all for watching. I'm Dino K-Drama. See you in the next Korean drama.